All right, guys, you know what the secret to growing a giant pumpkin is? It's water. You're watching Moby Mike Pumpkins on YouTube. All right, guys, you know what the secret to growing a giant pumpkin is? It's water. Pumpkins are 90% water, so we need to have a good watering system in place. So I thought today I'd go over my watering system. So for me, I got 4 IBC totes. You can usually find those on like Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace for about 60 bucks. But those guys are basically making pure profit off those, because if they have like chemicals shipped in these, think of it as like a milk jug. They're one-time use if they're being used for chemicals, okay? It wouldn't be anything unheard of for some of these products in here to be like $20 a gallon. Typically, maybe not that much, but you know, you could have $4,000 to $5,000 worth of product in one of these, and they somehow got to get it shipped to you. And if they're going to refill them with chemicals, they have to replace the liner for them to reuse them. So most of the time, there's no core charge on these. So a lot of guys, they're just grabbing them from work and they're selling them to you on Craigslist for 60 bucks. But like I said, still a good deal. If you see them sitting outside of a company, you might be able to go in there, talk to them, and get them. Okay, so assume we got about 60 bucks in each one of those. Then my pumps here, I get these at Menards. I think they're anywhere from like 150 to 120 bucks, depending on if they're on sale or not. So I got 2 of those. We might go to 3 of them. I go 1-inch line out to my patch. I think there's like 150 feet of hose to get out there, so depending on what you got. And then how you hook these up is you use this rubber coupling here. There's like a threaded end on the end of this valve, but it's a weird thread size, and it's just meant to cap them for like transport. And they put a weird thread size on there because that's not how they want you to draw off the tote. There's actually like a quick coupling that's designed for that. But I think those are like 40, 50 bucks. We're not going to use those. So just like a $5 boot in the plumbing section. And then we get it to PVC. And then you can adapt it to however you need. You can put extra valves in there, whatnot. I do have well switches on these pumps because I had a sprinkler set up with timers. I don't really use them anymore. They're just on there. So I don't need that. Another thing is I paint these totes black. And a lot of people think I paint the totes black to heat up the water. Actually, water will heat up better when the plastic is clear. It's like the greenhouse effect. It's like your car in the summer. It gets hot when the light shines through there. You tint your windows in your car, it gets less hot. The reason why they're painted black is to stop algae growth. And the reason I want to stop algae growth is not because it hurts the plants at all. It's because it plugs up my sprinklers. And what you want is, I mean, any paint will work, but find a paint specifically for plastic. Because what it'll have in it is it'll be formulated to A, stick to plastic, and B, it'll have a flex agent in it. And then the flex agent, because these totes, you know, they're flexible, it keeps the paint from cracking and popping off of there. So I got a few spots that need to be touched up on these. So it's never perfect, but just trying to limit the algae growth on there. And then let's go take a look at sprinklers. All right, so these are the sprinklers I use. They're just a tripod sprinkler. They're 30 bucks. So I have 6 of them right now. I actually have 8, but I have 6 of them that I for sure will have hooked up. I might hook up 8 if I hook up another pump. We'll see if I want to do that. And you're asking, well, why can't you just water with one? Okay, so how much water I put down in the day will take me 6 hours to fill with my garden hose. So that means it would take me 6 hours to get it down with a sprinkler. Well, I don't have 6 hours every day. And those 6 hours, if I had one sprinkler, if I got like 6 locations now, which would mean I'd have to move it 6 times. So I'd have to be available the whole 6 hours. And with the pumps and everything, I can put it down in like 20 to 30 minutes. So I'm saving 5.5 hours a day. So that's why I have this setup. Now, if you have clay soil, you might not need to water as much. You might not need to do a setup like this, but I just wanted to show it so you can kind of get an idea of what's going on. So that 1-inch line that comes from the pumps, I made these headers up. So I got 2 of these headers here. So you got the 1-inch in, and then it's all adapted with valves, garden hoses. So there's 2 of those right now. Like I said, I can supply 4, but because of the pumping distance, it'll only run 3. If I can cut that pumping distance down, it'll run 4. So, but I like the water tanks up on the cement pad, so that's what we got there. Let's go back over to water tanks. I want to show you one more thing. Okay, back at the water tanks, someone asked me, is the NPK actually what's going on there. Do I have nitrous, phosphorus, and potassium, each one of those? No, I just sprayed that on there because I was being funny. But one thing I was looking at is some kind of agitation in there for when I mix up stuff. Usually I just stick a paddle in there. So I looked up, they make agitators specifically for these tanks, and they're like $1,000, $2,000. And I'm like, well, I'm obviously not going to do that. So I was got to thinking, what could I put in there that would agitate if I want to mix up a dry fertilizer? And I came up with, we'll put a trolling motor off a boat on there. So a real funny story on this. I talked to the guy and I said, yeah, whatever, we'd take $50. He's like, yeah, take $50. I go to his house. He sends me a message on my way there and he says, it doesn't work. And I get there, he goes, do you want it? It doesn't work. I says, yeah, I'll take it. Just hit it with a hammer, seat the brushes back in, it works fine. So we'll do some modifications on a toad here, get it set up so we can do some mixing on there. All right, we got the mixer installed, just hooked up to a battery there. And it's got 30 pounds of pumpkin mixing thrust, and check this out. Does a real good job. I haven't mixed any powder in there yet, but it's really swirling around there and you can spin her back and forth, and that ought to work awesome. All right, guys, I almost forgot one of the most important parts of this setup. Well, it's kind of important. Is how do I fill these with water? You could fill them with rainwater if you wanted to, run some downspouts in there. But anyway, I have a float here. And you can hear it as I picked it up, it kicked on. So that's just a cattle tank float. You can get them at Fleet Farm. Anyway, just cut a hole out, put it in there. So the water's going in. I have a splitter here just for another hose that I use to fill up my sprayer and whatnot. But anyway, that's how the water gets in there. If you want to plumb rainwater in there, you can do that too. So obviously you got to fill. So I just have the float on there. So that way it fills them all up, you know, 1,000 gallons, whatever it needs. And then it shuts off and there's no worries. All right, so the trolling motor's in there. And I don't know, it kind of looks like a meth lab out here. So if your setup looks like a meth lab, you're probably doing something right. Just throw a couple propane tanks in there, and then the neighbors will question what you're doing. To show you this. This is what I was using kind of before. It's just a 5-gallon paint stir on a DeWalt drill, but I left this outside and whatever, shorted it out, don't work anymore. And the trolling motor, since they're made to go on a boat and in the water, in the rain, that can sit out all the time. It'll be fine. Charging the battery. I do have a solar charger. If I find that, I'll put it on there, and that should be enough to maintain it because it's only going to run a couple minutes a day and not every day. So that's kind of my watering setup, guys. So just thought I'd show you that.